Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Off-Grid Hunter. So today we are going to be cleaning up this nice Saskatchewan whitetail. A good friend of mine, Ryan, took this last fall, and he was originally going to get it shoulder mounted, but decided he wanted it to be Euroed instead, so I'm going to do that for him. It's a little bit early in the year. If you guys have been following along my channel or my other taxidermy videos, I've been basically doing everything through maceration because it gets the best results for the Euros for me anyways. So it did get warm enough though today to skin the head out. The skull is still frozen though, so I won't be able to take the jaw out today, but I think we'll go ahead and get started, and at least when it gets a bit warm in the spring here, I'll be ready to go into the soup, so to speak. So anyways, let's go ahead and start skinning this out. Still a bit. She still might be a little frozen, but still a little frozen, but see how much we can do here. Alright, just got done skinning this head out. This is probably the worst way you could possibly do this. It was still partially frozen. It's been warm here a couple days, but that heavy fur really insulates things, so the skull is completely frozen pretty much still. It's really hard getting this apart, but thought it was nice out, so I'd give it a shot. I did get it skinned out, but before I take the bottom jaw, eyes out, etc., I'm gonna just wait till this head thaws. Might be a little while yet. Great deer. Nice, nice typical looking frame on him. So it should turn out really well when we get this guy macerated and cleaned up here. The one thing I would definitely recommend if you're doing this at home, besides having a sharp knife when you're skinning these out, is make sure they're completely thawed out. I was really dumb to actually skin this out right now. Should have just waited till it thawed out a bit more, but anyways, we got it done. And next steps here will be to wait till it thaws. We'll take the jaw and the eyes out and get it macerating. Alright, it's early March here, but it's gotten really warm out on to melting. We're gonna start the maceration process on this guy. Now, I've got him in some water here now, but we'll top that off. So he's a nice deer. It's a 5-gallon pail, so pretty decent size. But I got a bit of water in there. We'll get that topped off here shortly. Alright, we just got the bucket topped up with the water here. Just up to the base of the bottom there. We'll get some like a cloth over top like we've done on these other ones to rot that off at the same time. Just a fair bit of meat on there. Could have trimmed up a bit more, but this thing will rot out pretty quick, I think. So anyways, it's looking good. We'll check back on this in a while. Okay, I just finished changing the water out. This is late spring, early summer on this deer. Now, you can see there's still a fair bit of material left on here, so I'm gonna put it back in the soak. Now, for whatever reason, deer seem to be the hardest to macerate for me. I don't know why. But here, so you can see all this material. If you're following along and watching some of the moose videos that I've done, all this stuff on the back side here is all cleaned off already, like at this stage. But for some reason, these deer are super hard to get completely clean. So I am going to put him back in the bucket. We'll let him. I think this guy normally at this point I'd probably only give it another couple weeks, but because of all the tissue that's still on there, I think I'll leave this in another month. Probably change the water out again in 2 weeks, but definitely needs more time. So anyways, we'll check back in a couple weeks and see where we're at. Okay, we're pretty much done with the defleshing here on this guy. Just a little bit, that nose cartilage I believe I can get out. A little bit of tissue there. I just popped the auditorial bones off, but all the stuff that's left, I can get that off. It doesn't need to rot anymore. So I'll get that little bit cleaned up, and then it'll be time for degreasing. Okay, time to start our whitetail degreasing process. A little bit still stuck on, but they're all rotted out. They'll wash off, and we'll do that another time. But I'm going to put a lot of borax on this one, and what borax does is it actually helps any of those little bits of flesh and different things come off. So that's step one. Next we'll get the soap. Okay, step two, once again we use the Dawn clear liquid dish soap. I put some on the skull in the highest places. Let it soak in, soak through. And this skull isn't very greasy at all. We did a good job rotting it out, so it's pretty good now. So next we'll put the water in. Okay, so I usually start with a bit of a spray just to get the foaming and the bubbles started at the bottom here. And once we get going, I switch it to just like the soaker, just to fill the pail up. And don't worry about washing all the borax off the skull. As long as it's diluted in the water, that will really do the trick. I just like to put it directly on, personal preference, but no means does it have to be like that. This is really a simple process. You just need to be patient and have time and a place to put this stuff. My wife's getting kind of tired of me doing this in the backyard, but anybody can do it. Okay, so there we go. Bucket is full. I put the cloth back up around the top pieces that are not submerged, and you can use the same cloth that you used to rot it out. I just wash it out with the pressure washer before I put it back on. The soap and the water, by the time we're done degreasing, like that cloth will be clean. Don't have to worry about it, and that cloth will help soak any of the grease out of the skull into the cloth itself during this degreasing process. And don't worry about getting the antlers wet. As you can hear in the background, it's raining. The downspout there's splashing. It's raining pretty good here. You know, before you came along, these animals were outside. Their antlers were getting wet, and the color didn't wash off them. The big thing is you don't want to put your degreaser, if you're using a chemical, directly on it, and you don't want to pressure wash directly on it, because that pressure washer will take any of that color off, but just soaking it like this is fine. So anyways, we'll check back in a couple weeks and see where we're at. Hey guys, the day's finally come. Our whitetail skull we've been working on here is clean, it's degreased, and now we're just going to be doing the 3% peroxide disinfectant treatment on it. If you're boiling or doing the simmering method, you don't really have to do this because boiling essentially kills any bacteria, but because we rotted this all out, I like to just disinfect the whole thing with a 3% peroxide. In the past, lots of people used to like to have their skulls that super bright white, but now I'm finding more and more people are wanting just more of the natural bone color. So we're just going to do that 3%. It won't actually really bleach the bone that much, if at all. It won't even be noticeable for sure. And then we'll just go ahead and touch up any of the darker spots with the 40% peroxide just to even things out. And this project should be done. But I know a bunch of you guys are going to be asking this in the comments below, so I'm going to show you how this is actually mounted up here, because it's a pretty slick idea. So let's go take a look at that. Alright, I'm just going to take this off. So this is basically how I put these up here. It's just a rope hook, and now this is a smaller one. I think it's rated for 250, 300 pounds. And if we look at the back in here, basically the hook just goes up the brainstem up in there, and it's close enough to the wall here that when we put this back on the brainstem, it just sits naturally against there. And these things are about $2–3 each. Can be found at most hardware stores. So really simple, good idea. Those rope hooks also work on regular shoulder mounts and stuff. It's actually, I've got every single mount I have on the smaller mounts on these smaller rope hooks, and then like my bison, muskox, and my Alaska Yukon moose, the shoulder mounts I have on the 600-pound rope hooks. They work really good. I got the idea from a sporting goods store when they had their mounts down for cleaning, and I was like, oh, this is brilliant. So, but anyways, I found it also works really good for these Euro mounts too. And now this is just all twisted off because I don't have it straightened up, but you could straighten it out. But super cheap, simple solution if you just want the head kind of a natural position and sticking out from the wall. So now that being said, I am going to show you guys how I do a few mounts for these Euro mounts, specifically the Predator skulls and some of the options you have for that. Yeah, there's a handful of brackets I really like. A lot of people default to the skull hooker because it's readily available, but there's actually quite a few other small mom and pop shops that make some really good high quality brackets that I like quite a bit better than the skull hookers. So anyways, stay tuned for that video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because there's going to be a bunch more taxidermy kind of videos and different things like that coming up. So anyways, let's go ahead and get this disinfected. Okay, so I'm just gonna do a little bit of peroxide here. The 40% mainly round right in here. It's just slightly discolored. I don't want to make this super white. I just want to even out the color on some of these spots. Looks pretty good. It got really clean, so pretty happy with it. And we'll just go ahead and apply the peroxide now. Now the best way to do this is actually to put some calcium magnesium, I believe it's called, and mix the stuff up, and it makes it more of a paste. But just painting it on also works. You just got to be a little, it's just a little runnier. You got to be a little more cautious about how you do it. Now, the fellow I'm doing this for, he didn't tell me if he wanted it brilliant white or more of a bone color, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to even this out on the darker spots, and then that'll sit on there. And the other piece is the rest of the skull. I'll probably just put a quick coat of this on there, but I just won't let it sit as long. But the darker pieces that I'm trying to even out, will let that sit a little bit longer. And that'll bleach it out more. This 40% peroxide's pretty potent, so you just got to be very cognizant of what you're doing and how you're doing it. Also, I like to do the underside and just make the whole thing an even color, regardless if you can see it when it's normally mounted or not. Just try to make it as professional as I can. Now, if you really want to bleach this white, what you would do is you'd put this on and put saran wrap over it so it wouldn't dry out, and leave this sit overnight, and it would be so white you'd think someone painted it. But I personally just like the natural bone color, and I just even out some of the darker spots just to make it look a little better. But some people do like that bright white. And like all chemicals, if you want to stop the reactions or with peroxide, basically you just soak it with water and the peroxide will stop acting. It's very easy to clean up, because peroxide, once it's been chemically reacted, actually does turn into water. So now, the one nice thing with the maceration, when you do the degreasing and the whitening, it actually, this is probably the best degreasing method you can do. It gets everything a really good chance to rot and get out of there. And you just need to have patience and the time to do this. If you were doing this for a business, you'd have to charge an awful lot of money, I think, to actually do it. But as far as doing this for yourself, just have some patience. It's not going anywhere, and you just let it rot as long as you need be. Now, I'm up in Canada doing this, so we don't have near the heat that they do in the southern US, but if you're in the southern US or somewhere further south where you got a lot more hot days, this would take you a fraction of the amount of time to do that it took me. So I know a lot of my viewers are from the States, so welcome, guys. But this can be done basically anywhere that you have a summer. So Obviously the warmer it is, the better and the faster it works. But this, like I said, it can be done anywhere. Now the one thing I do want to mention too with the maceration, if you don't change the water out fairly regular basis and just let it sit there, you can get staining from, I'm going to say, like the bacteria smeg that kind of starts sitting on there. So it's very important to just change the water out as soon as you see it starting to go cloudy. It's a good time to do it. If you have your skull in the water and it looks clean and it's not turning cloudy and it just kind of stays as is, it probably means it's done. But when it's cloudy, make sure to change it, and you'll just end up getting so much better results. Okay, so I've kind of painted the entire bottom here. Just wanted to kind of even things out down there. No one's going to see this backside. The key is really the base of the antlers, because that's really where it needed to get touched up. The rest of this is just more for evening things out. Put a little more around the base. Then we'll just take the hose and wash it off after a little bit here. Like I said, this isn't going to be a brilliant white, it's just going to be more of the natural bone color. And what I'm doing is more just for the evening out of the color around things. I've put the peroxide on the darker spots first. I'll just kind of blend it in now with the rest of the skull. And the rest of these pieces here, I really won't let it sit that terribly long on. Now, painting this on versus doing the simmer method where you would actually boil it in peroxide takes a little bit longer, but actually saves you a ton of peroxide compared to boiling it. When you boil it, it actually starts converting into water, and after a while you end up not having very strong peroxide solution. But the boiling or simmering method of the whitening is way faster. I wouldn't experiment on doing that with someone else's skull, but if you're doing your own, you can see kind of how long you need to boil it to get a certain whiteness that you are looking for. The one thing I like with this method of just painting it on, you can kind of see the reaction happening, and it's not super fast, but it's not that slow either, so you can, you know, lighten up a little more in some areas or less in others, and just adjust accordingly. The other thing you can do too is if you're finding it too strong and it's working too fast, just cut it with a little bit of water, and that'll help you. It'll take a bit longer, but it'll help you get a better result for what you're looking for if things are happening too fast, if you don't have a whole lot of experience with this stuff. So okay, so I'm just going to spray this off now with the hose in a couple minutes. Then we'll hang it up to dry, and after it's dry, it should be basically finished. Well guys, that wraps up another taxidermy video cleaning this whitetail skull for a very good friend of mine. Now if you like this video, I've done quite a few other ones, skull cleaning ones, bison, I think caribou, and I'm going to have some wolves, a couple moose coming up as well. So make sure to check those out, and thanks for watching. If you found value in this video, please make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video.